Hi, my name is Kelsey Landsberg, and this is my presentation on the Transcendentalism philosophical period. The historical context: it was an American philosophical period ranging roughly from 1830 to 1860 and embodied general themes such as individualism, idealism, and having spirituality. This period was born in the New England region around this time as a response to rationalism, which argues that knowledge is acquired through reasons without the use or help of the senses. The senses impair our ability to think in a logical and rational manner and also emphasize conformity. Transcendentalism instead places emphasis on individuality and everyone's individual journey to figuring out what people believe, such as their relationship to God. During this time, a group of people who did not share the values of a heavily adopted way of thinking, rationalism, came together and held meetings to share their shared disapproval of rationalism, which led to the birth of the Transcendental Club. The members of this club were influenced by the nature of the region, which served as their inspiration to break away from the common way of thinking and instead adopt their own philosophical movement that utilized the beauty of nature and therefore the beauty of the human experience and individual journeys. Here I've included photos of what the nature of the New England region looked like at the time, as well as a drawing of the club meeting. Associated philosophers. Many people involved in this movement are important American literature figures that we still study even today, such as Ralph Waldo Emerson, Henry David Thoreau, Margaret Fuller, and Walt Whitman, to name a few. Ralph Waldo Emerson is most credited for this movement, so I will focus on him for a moment. Emerson was born in New England and raised by his parents with emphasis on religion, with the idea being that he would be a Unitarian minister. Emerson followed his parents' wishes, but when he became ordained, he had disagreements with the church over certain principles that focus on forcing people to pray or receive communion in a certain way, and he eventually left over these disagreements. As such, he soon befriended Henry David Thoreau and attended the Transcendental Club meetings. Here he met other people who believed everyone's relationship God was a personal and individual journey that can't be forced by the church or in other ways. Emerson had finally found people who had the same way of thinking. I've also included photos of Emerson, Thoreau, and Fuller for reference. Transcendentalism has a focus on individuality as opposed to universal experience, so the idea of what is good and how we should live is not a straightforward answer. In short, as Emerson notes in his most popular work, Self-Reliance, whoso would be a man must be a nonconformist. He who would rather gather immortal plans must not be hindered by the name of goodness, but most explore it if it must be goodness. Nothing is at last sacred but the integrity of your own mind. Absolve you to yourself, and you shall have the suffrage of the world. This quote shows how Transcendentalism focus on individual journeys to figuring out what you personally believe to be considered good or bad, and not to simply accept something as good because you learned it from someone who instead asks yourself why if you think it is good. If you think and decide for yourself, then you will truly know. Transcendentalism also places emphasis that humans have the capacity to do and be good, as opposed to previous philosophical movements. They believe in the human decision-making. One such text associated with it is one that I've already named, which is Emerson's Self-Reliance. Some passages that I think it does a good job describing it in general are listed. While I won't read those quotes out loud for the sake of time, I think Emerson's writings show that Transcendentalism embodies the ideas of thinking for oneself in order to achieve happiness, as shown through the quotes listed above. Another popular text that arose from this period is Henry David Walden. I have included below. Again, I won't read anything out loud to save time, but his quotes reflect the importance of finding joy in life through personal experience with oneself and nature. It has had major impacts on the world in which we live now, and we can see it almost everywhere we see common themes of transcendentalism, such as nonconformity, free thinking, individual experiences, and importance of nature on well-being. These themes are essential to it, and Americans have adopted them to bring meaning to their own lives. From music and media to deciding which path to take in college, people place emphasis on their own journeys and guide their lives according to how they want to live it. Today, people have learned to respect and accept others who lead different lifestyles and live paths, and this is in part thanks to it. We also see this in religion as the number of different religions branches grow because people have looked inward to evaluate their own personal beliefs with God and how those beliefs may or may not follow the teachings that previously learned. America has become home to people from dozens, if not hundreds, of different religions because people have looked inward to find what they believe to be true for them, which is in part due to the open-mindedness it opened the door for. It has manifested in almost every facet of American life and continues to show how it is an integral part of the American way of life. I've included a photo from the movie Legally Blonde, which perfectly encapsulates how people today view individual thinking and paving one's way in life as a good thing, which is part of it thanks to it. I've also included a comic from Calvin and Hobbes, which I think perfectly captures the principles of transcendentalism, which is seen by Calvin criticizing Hobbes for his personal choices, yet when Calvin slows down and takes a minute to look at Hobbes, he realizes that Hobbes is actually really happy since he's adhering to his own personal thinking on happiness.